Hello, I'm Marina Johnson, and this is TABLEWORK, a TAPS podcast series where we interview the artists and theater makers behind our productions on what it takes to get their productions from the page to the stage. This episode features Erica Chung Shoch, performance maker, choreographer, and theater director, and guest artist at Stanford. Join us as she talks about the upcoming piece, For Now, which is part of the college program and TAPS Fall Main Stage. For Now opens on November 16th in the Harrry J. Elam Theater. Hi, Erica. It's so great to be in conversation with you today. Thanks for joining me.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So just to start, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself as an artist, as a person.
The first thing I'll say as an artist or as a person is I don't really know where one ends and where the other begins. I think I'm an artist person or a person artist. I make performances. I'm a director. I'm a choreographer. I also recently started doing ceramics, which I just really quite love, kind of more than anything.
That's very exciting. And there's something really nice about ceramics. I mean, I find as a theater maker myself that there's something nice about processes that stay. And so like a ceramic stays as opposed to theater, which tends to be more ephemeral and we don't get to keep it around as much post-strike.
I really love that. And I mean, I think the thing that I love about theater is that it is so communal, right? That every single theater project I make is an opportunity to gather a group of people together and to create community. And I love working within these really expansive communities. And I also really love ceramics because I'm totally alone with this hump of clay. And I think having both of these practices in my life are really important in terms of being able to give me like creative time with lots of new friends and also just creative time to kind of dip into my own quiet dreams.
Definitely. That sounds like great balance. Well, at Stanford, some folks might remember your production of Cabaret. But what is it like to be back at Stanford right now?
It's so good. I love it here so much. I absolutely love being on this campus. I feel just so lucky and so privileged to be around so many people who are such deeply passionate, creative thinkers, people that are really committed to finding the most eloquent questions and like so many people that just are not driven by a sense of I'm finding not driven by a sense of ego. I feel like there's so much curiosity and so much playfulness and so much care. And I absolutely love being back. When I was here in Cabaret, that was, God, 2019, something like this, pre-pandemic anyways. And so the world has just changed so much since that time. And I think our questions as artists has changed a lot since that time. So I'm both reminiscent and a little bit nostalgic for the pre-COVID ways of making. And I'm also really, I don't know, committed to being here in the theater at this time where we are all reconsidering our job as theater artists within this new world that we all find ourselves.
Definitely. Something I love about you being here, I mean, besides the fact that I'm so excited for this production that's coming up, is that before you came and before I met you, I had heard stories about Erica. Do you know Erica, who directed this play before? But a lot of the words you just used to describe what you love, like curiosity and this engagement, were words that people were using to describe you before I met you. So it's just really nice to be able to get to experience that and to also know that that's the experience you're having here and in this what we sometimes do call the post-pandemic world, but really is still, just a different form of the pandemic, but a different way of relating to each other in many ways. Well, going off of that, this production that you're working on right now is a devised piece that uses Jenny Odell's book, How to Do Nothing, as a springboard. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the book itself first, and then we can dig into the process of what it means to devise using a book as the main text?
Sure. Jenny Odell's How to Do Nothing. I love this book and I have a complicated relationship to this book. I was just having a conversation about the title and no offense, because I love the title How to Do Nothing, but in some ways I feel like the subtitle should be like How to Do a Lot of Something Just Differently, right? Because the book is not making a case for doing nothing. The book is making a case for being very strategic about how we pass our time and what we give our attention to. So it's about how to do something with great focus and intent. And sometimes to do something with great focus and intent means we need to like do less multitasking and be really clear about our intentions for any given moment. I think I grew up really in a family of laborers. My mom is Korean immigrant. My family grew up like liquor store owners, and so I grew up in like Korean liquor store culture, which means like really working these crazy long hours. That Sundays was the short day, which means you only work like a 6 or an 8 hour day, so you have time for your dinner on Sunday night. So I grew up with like a real sense of work in my family. And yet I think that there were these moments when I think back to my mom running that store where like the doing nothing happened, um, when you're like stocking the beer fridge and it's like a really hot day and just standing in the wine cooler stocking things. So there's like an attention to a kind of repetitive task and a kind of like focus and like ease in that task. I think that my mom did a lot of nothing when she connected with her customers who all really came to her store because they loved her, and she would like hold their hands across the like lotto tickets and just like have quiet times together. And I think that for me, I grew up in a family where finding nothing happened in like surprising and unexpected places amidst the chaos of like hard work. And I think that my mom, that I was raised to really value those moments that you could find just a moment of like of respite, even though it might be amidst a lot of chaos or drama.
That's really lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go there. That's not really about the book, but that is just reflective of a conversation that I was just having earlier today around just thinking around this idea that Jenny Odell talks about, which is like the privilege of doing nothing. And I think Jenny Odell addresses it very beautifully in the book, where she recognizes her own privilege in being able to go to this Oakland rose garden and sit in a kind of expanded time space and engage in this like deep level of contemplation. She speaks to that. And she speaks to the fact that her dad was able to take 2 years off of work to kind of go through this soul searching thing. And she recognizes that not everybody has those kinds of privileges. So I think that that's just something that has been up for me in terms of being inspired by the book and inspired by so many of the stories of the book, and really thinking about the book's kind of place and in terms of what the book is prompting us to do across a diverse, swath of humanity, how we might
Definitely.
adopt these ideas within different lifestyles.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, while it might not be directly related to the book, it's so appreciated to hear your insight into what that's bringing up for you in your own life, because I'm sure that college students are reading this text and I'm sure they're engaging with it in their own personal ways too. Um, but so then, how did you and the cast, the ensemble, work to bring this book into a theatrical piece?
How did we work to bring the book into a theatrical piece? So I love that question. And I would also rephrase the question a little, or I would say, I don't know that that's what we did. I'll say that. I'll say, I don't know that we brought the book into the theatrical piece. I'll say that we read the book and that we used the broader themes of the book as a springboard into broader discussions, right? That the topics that the book raised kind of served as conversational prompts for and creative research prompts for this cast, and that the piece that we're making is not telling the story of the book. The piece that we're making like doesn't necessarily illustrate what the book does. Like what we see in the theater doesn't look like the world of the book. What we see in the theater looks like where our imaginations went when we engaged with those themes and when we personalized those themes by experimenting wildly with a number of creative prompts in response to those broader themes. And I love that this process of like learning and shared research that happens through creativity uh, allows us to understand the text in a really different way. It's really different to read a book and then to get together around a table and talk about the themes of the book. That's one way to understand the themes of the book. Another way is to say, hey, I read this chapter this chapter made me think of this story from my personal life. This story from my personal life made me like feel really agitated. And the agitated feeling is now going to inspire this piece of choreography, right? So there's a number, it's not a straight line from the book to the text. And I really hope that people engage with it in that way, that as opposed to people coming to the show and saying, I read the book, I don't see the connection. I hope that people come to the show with a sense of curiosity in terms of like asking, I wonder how that moment traced back to what part of the book, and that it's a process of discovery, or that it's that it's like a puzzle, like that the performance is a puzzle, and that every single moment that we created in some way traces back to the themes, and we are not doing the work to like tell audiences exactly, to draw those lines for folks.
That makes sense. And thank you for the reframe, because you're right. It's not an adaptation. This is a devised process. And I love the word springboard. I think that sounds so beautiful, of using this book for those ways through creative prompts. So I can't wait to see it and to see what you and the group have been working on in these ways. I would love to know a little bit more about what the collaboration with the college program has been like.
Yes. I am so passionate about this program, y'all. I really hope that it can continue on. I just think that there is so much opportunity as a person, again, who the way that I research, the way that I learn, the way that I study, the way that I build community to research with it's all in the realm of performance making. And I just think that there is such a beautiful like synergy between what the college program is doing and what TAPS is doing. And I feel very lucky in that my dear friend and colleague, Deborah Cullinan, learned that I was on campus and said, hey, you should meet with this guy named Jordan. Jordan's in the Office of Community Engagement, and do something with Jordan. And then Jordan's like, hey, let's meet with Dan and Parna. And so we did. So like through these kinds of organic channels, I found myself in conversation with Jordan and Deborah and Dan and Parna, who run the college program. And an idea that Deborah and I worked with many, many years ago, 20 years ago in San Francisco, is this idea of these open process events. And so back in the day when Deborah and I both worked at this theater in San Francisco called Intersection for the Arts, we had these series of events called open process events, in which Deborah coined the idea to like democratize creative process through these interdisciplinary conversations. And so for every new performance that was being developed, we would have a series of events that I love it that it just suddenly got dark. I'm sorry that you're on the podcast and you can't see this, but suddenly everything just went dark, and now I'm sitting in absolute darkness. It's terrifying. Anyhow, so we had these kinds of events in which people from different disciplines would come together and talk about the primary subject of the performance. And we did, and so Deborah and I got excited about this model, and we proposed it to the college folks, and we hosted 2 open process events that moved alongside some of their programs that they were doing with their students. And I would say that they were like not successful necessarily, but they were successful they weren't successful in the way that we would have loved for more people to participate, but they were so successful for me personally, because again, I got to just dig in to the questions that we have, and we got to open those questions up to a few of the college students, and just open up the process a little bit. And I am excited for the next person who's in my shoes to be able to deepen into some of this work and continue to create these moments with them.
That's amazing. And yes, I think a lot of us are big fans of Deborah Cullinan, and so excited to hear about the work that you've done together in the past, and also to get to talk with you a little bit about this show. I can't wait to see it. I know that we're out of time for now, but hopefully everyone listening will take this invitation to come and see this wonderful piece you've been working on.
I want to say one more thing. I know we're out of time, but I just have to do like a shout out to the performers, to the cast, and to the creative team, because we didn't talk about devised performance, and just like the fact that nothing existed until we all made that. And so it's so incredibly collaborative, and I just feel so much gratitude for the student cast. There's 7 of them, and they have all just like contributed so many beautiful creative ideas and their contributions have like made the world of this show. So although I am like sitting here in the dark with the title of director, I am so much of my job is just taking their impulses and taking their ideas and figuring out how to make salient and contextualize and aestheticize some of these ideas. So wanted to just give a big shout out to them.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see them perform on stage very soon. Thank you so much, Erica.
Thank you, Marina. So nice to be here.